So hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today in this video we're going to be learning something about closures. So welcome back to JavaScript for Advanced series, and as I promised, I'll be making videos twice or once a week because I'm busy with my work, and also I'm working in a project of social media that is going to be really big. I hope you tune into it so I can deliver the best content to you. So today in this video, we're going to be learning about scope and closures in JavaScript. What are scopes, what are closures, and how do we use closures, and what are the benefits of closures in JavaScript? So this is one of the most important questions that are asked in the interview while you're going out for some jobs, searching out for jobs. The interviewer might be coming up with some questions related to closures because it's a interesting topic as well as one of the most useful topic you'll ever encounter in JavaScript. So first, let's go ahead and jump in code. So let's go for the first example over here. And in the first example, what do we have? So in the first example, let's understand what are scopes. So scope in JavaScript, as I already mentioned you in the JavaScript for beginner series, I hope I mentioned it in let var and const. So as I told you, scope is anything that has a certain level of, coding. So I have a code that is up to line 7, and this is my file. So this is example.js file. Now this whole file is a global scope. This is called a global scope. If I try to access some values inside of the global scope, so I'm inside of the global scope right now, my file is my global scope. So if I go for console.log, and then I'll go for my global variable, and then I can run that with node example1.js, and you can see that okay, let me comment this one out first, and then if I run it again, we can see that, wait, what do we have? Oh, this function is not defined, so I'll simply comment this one out. Okay, I'm not saved, so it's fine. So now if I go ahead and run this, we'll see that, no, this is an example of global variable. So yep, we can access this global variable inside of our global scope. But what if we try to access this global variable inside of a function? So let's go ahead and comment this line out and uncomment this one, all of these. So if I uncomment this and then I run for a global variable, but let's say I have a function inside of a function. So let's go for a function inside of a function. How do I do? So I'll go for const. I'll say function2 is equals to, now it's a function that's taking in some kind of value. So if I go for console.log, and I'll go for global variable, and then now I simply run the function2 inside of function, a function. Then if I run, what do you think I will get? I'll see that this is a global variable printed out here. Now, how can we access this global variable? But this is a separate scope, right? So this is a whole another scope, but this is the actual global scope that we have. Now, inside of the scope, we have another scope that is a subscope of the global scope. Now, the subscope of the global scope, a function, now it also has a inner function as well. It has a sub function. Now, this sub function is actually printing out the global variable. So that means that whenever we have declared something in global state, then we can access that anywhere, in any scope of our file. So even if I go for a million of functions inside of that, I can still access this global variable no matter what, because global variable is a global variable. But let's take an example that I have let's take an example that I have a global variable, but let's say that I declare it as a let, so that I can change this global variable later in the program. So if I go ahead and change the stuff over here, let's say global var. Now this is changed version of a global variable. So if I save that and if I run that, what you can see is we can say that this is a changed version of global variable. Okay, global variable. Now this is how scope works, right? Whenever now we've declared that in the global scope, but now we've changed it in the function scope. Now this is not going to accept the global scope variable. This is going to accept the variable that I have changed it in the function scope. But now if I go ahead and uncomment this one out and then run, then we can see that this is a global variable printed out before, because this is not being changed. This is not being changed in the global scope. This is being changed in the function scope. So whatever the value that we've set in the function scope is getting returned in the function, in the sub function. So that is how it works, okay? So let's take an example that I have changed the function in the global scope itself. So if I say this is a changed version of the global variable, and if I go ahead and do that over here, what do you think you will get? We will get the same thing, because no matter what we do, this is taking in the global variable and we are changing the value of the global variable before we are running the function. So this is taking in a step manner, in a synchronous way, okay? What do you say? Coherent way. First, this is getting run, and then after that, the function has been declared, and then the function has been called here. But before calling the function, we actually changed it. So that is how scopes work, okay? We can set this as variable, we can set this as anything you want, but let's take an example that I have set this let inside of a global variable. Now, can we access this global variable outside of the function? Let's take an example. Let's take a look, okay? I go for global variable. Now we're gonna see a big fat error. See it, right? It says that we cannot access the variables that are, well, we can say that global variable is not defined because this is inside of the function, not inside of the global. But what if I go for a const? Is it the same thing, or do I get stuff different? So if I go for this, we still see that we cannot access this outside the scope. So that is how it works, okay? So if I go for let, and then I'll move this up, and yep, that is how functions work. Now let's talk about closures, okay? So in the closures, let's move into the closures example. So in the closures example, we have a grandparent function. Now this grandparent function is returning another function, which is the parent function. And for the parent function, we are returning another function, which is the children function. Now this children function, what it is doing, it's simply consoling out the main parent argument, which is the main argument right over here, that the grandparent has accepted. Now this grandparent function accepts a main argument, and this parent function accepts a sub-argument. Now this all is getting printed out inside of the children function. What will you think that'll be printed out when I run the function? So let's go for const main function is equals to, going to be a grandparent function with the main argument, say main argument. And then if I go and run the main function, and then, let's go for, because we are having two functions getting returned in a same function. We're getting one function returned from this grandparent, and we're getting a parent function from, we're getting a children function from this parent function. So it's a little bit of stuff that I didn't teach you before, but if you're returning a function inside of a function, you just need, if you have a single function, let's say that I comment this one out, and if I go for console.log, and if I do hello, and then I'll go for the main argument, and then the sub argument, and then if I run the main function, what you can see is, I'm running example 1, I need to run example 2. You can see that hello main argument and undefined. So we are not defining the sub argument. Why is that happening? Now to define the sub argument, what are we going to do is we're going to pass in another argument inside of this main function. So this main function is a variable that is already calling the grandparent function. Now this grandparent function has been called and passed the main argument. Now inside of main function, we have another function which is the parent function. Now after this is getting run, this is returning something, and this is getting replaced with the parent function. So the parent function is not available over here, but we can simply access that using main function, and then we're putting something. So we can say our main argument, and we can say sub argument. Now after we've done that, we can see that hello main argument, sub argument. That is how it works, guys. I actually informed you about how we can call a function inside of a function, but let's take an example. How do you call a function inside of a function inside of a function? What do I mean? So in here, we have a function that's returning a function, and that function that's being returned is also returning something. So to do that, we can store it in another function. We can say this const sub function is equals to main function, and now we can call the sub function without any argument. And this sub function is going to be the children function. And then if I simply run that, what we can see is that this is the main parent and main argument. This is the parent sub argument. So wow, how do we do that? How it is happening? So in other languages like Python, C++, we cannot get closures, right? We cannot get this kind of functionalities in other languages, but we do get this in JavaScript, and this is a plus point for JavaScript, because whenever we are working with some kind of values, variables, and inputs, we are able to access that in any part of our application using closures. So even if I had this function, even if I had the function inside of another function, inside a parent function, then we would have got the same output, which is the main argument and sub argument. But how does this work? So I'll give you a brief example. If you've understood JavaScript, you might have understood how the functions work, okay? So first thing, whenever this grandparent function is being run, so I'll not include the children function yet. So I'll remove the children function, and then I'll simply remove this, and then the sub function as well. Now, if I run, we'll get the same output, so I'm not going to run that. Now, how does this work? So first, the grandparent function right over here. Now, this grandparent function is getting executed first, and it's returning a function. It's not doing anything. It simply has been executed. The function has been called already. Now, the main argument is it defined or is it undefined? Now, how do we know that? So in this case, the function is basically undefined, but how? But wait, okay, I'll give you an example that you can understand, okay? So if I run this main function just like this, we can see something is being undefined. Okay, wait. Okay, wait. Main function, and then I'll go for the sub argument. And then now, after I try to do that, and if I go ahead and console.log, now the function, grandparent function, is being run. Now, if I try to go ahead and console log the main argument, we can see that the main argument will get an error. We can see that main argument is not defined. Now, this is happening because this function has already ran. This function has ran itself, and it's actually creating a new function and just passing in that function. It's just throwing in that function. You were a part of Beeman, but not now. This grandparent is saying to the parent function that now you've become a grown man. Now I'm old. I'll pass away. You do the job. Now, the grandparent also has a something that is being passed on to the parent. Let's say that he passed on something valuable or expensive. Let's say his watch. His watch was his precious thing, and he passed it to his son. Now that son, do you think that the son is going to have the watch or not. Yes, the son is going to have the watch because it's taken already. Now, even if the parent dies, the child or the children has its properties. So it's basically going for a main argument, and then after that main argument, it's capturing the main argument. Even if the function has run, it actually holds on to that main argument value and then simply prints out the main argument right over here. So I hope that made you understand this closure example. And closures are really helpful. And how are they helpful? I'm going to make you understand right here. So I'll simply just main function and sub argument. We can know that this is going to give us the same result. Now, let's go on to another example of closures, but this example is going to be a real life example, okay? So that's going to example 3, and let's take an example from this one. Let's copy the same thing, and in the example 3, I'm going to paste this. Now, in this, what we can do is come here, and let's go for fetch something. We're going to fetch something using the fetch API, and this is actually accepting a parameter, which is the URL. Now, this URL argument here, this URL argument is being accepted by fetch. So fetch is accepting the URL, and then whatever the stuff that I have. Okay, fetch is not a function. Now, this is returning a promise, so I'll go for .then, and then I'll simply go for console.log the URL. Now, whenever I'm fetching something, okay, let's go for fetch something and then run, and we pass in some kind of URL like XYZ, but I'm not going to run this, okay? The URL can be anything you want, but let's say that I run fetch over here with some kind of URL as a parameter, and then I run a then function. Now, what do you see is that we can actually go ahead and console log the URL that we've gotten here. Now, we can get this URL inside of the function inside of a function. Now, .then is also a function. Now, .then accepts another function, which is the callback function. Now, this callback function is also achieving this URL, even though this fetch something is returning a fetch here. Now, that is what you can relate this example over here with the previous example that I gave you from a father. Now, let's say fetch something is the grandparent, and the grandparent is passing away. Now, the grandparent is passing away. Before it passes away, it passes on a certain valuable item to that child. Now, this valuable item in this case is URL, and it passes on that URL to the child, which is the fetch here, and then the fetch is holding on to it, and it's passing on to its future generation. Even if this is died, its legacy still continues. So that is what I'm talking about, okay? So that is how closures work in a real life example. Even though we're running this inside of .then and inside of another function inside of .then, we're simply getting that value consoled out. So that is what closures are, and the advantage of closures are whatever you're accessing something and you don't know where that thing is, you simply can see it in the global scope and access that anywhere else in your program. So I hope that helped you today a lot, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please don't forget to join the Discord server. Till then, take care everyone, and goodbye.